P. Diddy, the Texas floods, the America Party, but with the fake FEC filing, and last night, the Epstein memo, which was confirmed today. And here I am today, pretty much ready to wash my hands of everyone. The CEO is always responsible. Epstein had no client list? Really? Epstein didn't blackmail anyone? Really? This goes to the top. I don't care if a bunch of blue and pink-haired snowflakes go and pull a real insurrection on the White House, Congress, FBI, and DOJ right now. I don't care. I draw the line at pedophilia. I draw the line. Can we just get the solar kill shot already? Can the poles flip already? Can the sun turn red already? What an absolute clown world we are in right now. If I was a deity, I would take a look at this planet and be like, I'm writing you off. Nope, no sunk cost fallacy here for me. I'm too smart for that. Just this planet is done. How can you not feel like we have been abandoned by everyone who is supposed to care about us? I draw the line there.
I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself,
Main thing they want you to believe is the supernatural is not real. Why has that been so important for 80 years for you to convince me the supernatural is not real? The obvious answer is, well, because they sort of know they're working for supernatural forces.
For many a year we have controlled your lives, while you all just struggle and suffer in strife. We created the things that you don't really need, your sports cars and fashions and plasma TVs. I remember it clearly how all this begun. Family secrets from father to son. Inherited knowledge that gives me the edge, while you people lie sleeping at night in your beds. We control the money that controls your lives. Whilst you worship false idols and wouldn't think twice about selling your souls for a place in the sun. These things that won't matter when your time is done. But as long as they're there to control the masses, I just sit back and consider my assets, safe in the knowledge that I have it all, while you common people are losing your jobs. You see, I just hold you in utter contempt. But the smile on my face, well, it makes me exempt. For I have the weapon of global TV, which gives us connection and invites empathy. You would really believe that we look out for you, while we bankers and brokers are only a few. But if you saw that, you'd take back the power. Hence, daily terrors to make you all cower. The panics, the crashes, the wars, and the illness that keep you from finding your spiritual wholeness. We rig the game and we buy out both sides to keep you enslaved in your pitiful lives. So, go out and work as your body clock fades. And when it's all over, a few years from the grave, you'll look back on all this, and just then you'll see that your life was nothing. A mere fantasy. There are very few things that we don't now control. To have lawyers and police force was always a goal, doing our bidding while you march on the street. But they never realize that they're only just sheep. For real power resides in the hands of a few. You voted for parties. What more could you do? But what you don't know is they're one and the same. Old Gordon has passed good old David the reins, and you'll follow the leader who was put there by you. But your blood, it runs red, while our blood runs blue. But you simply don't see it's all part of the game. Another distraction, like money and fame. Get ready for wars in the name of the free, vaccinations for illness that will never be, the assault on your children's impressionable minds, and a microchipped world. You'll put up no fight. Information suppression will keep you in tow. Depopulation of peasants was always our goal. But eugenics was not what we hoped it would be. Oh yes, it was us that funded Nazis. But as long as we own all the media too, what's really happening does not concern you. So just go on watching your plasma TV, and the world will be run by the ones you can't see.
But don't you think there has to be some sort of field of value that can orient people into, like, hey, let's do things a little bit better because these things actually matter. There is right and wrong. There is morality. There is certain, like...
Well, unfortunately, the problem with living in a secular society and living in a society that has a lot of people that are atheists, that have no belief system at all, is you find a belief system. And that's a lot of these people that call themselves atheists, or they've subscribed to the religion of woke. You know, their God is equity and inclusiveness. And their God is this ideology that they think that you have to subscribe to. And that's why it's spooky. Because people, human beings, seem to have a very strong desire for some sort of order and form and some sort of pattern that they can follow that seems to be the right way to go. And they can be led. They can be led by cults. They can be led by groups of people. They can be led by, intolerant governments and evil armies and corrupt politicians. They can be led. But I think as time rolls on, people are going to understand the need to have some sort of divine structure to things, some sort of belief in the sanctity of love and of truth. And a lot of that comes from religion. Yeah, it's a fucked up world we live in. We need Jesus. If he came back now, it'd be great. Like, Jesus, if you're thinking about coming back, right now, now's a good time.
Yeah, pretty soon, yeah.
Now's a good time. We're kind of...
Well, there's a lot of people that think that they might be coming.
Well, it might be.
Mark of the beast.
That might be the aliens. I mean, that might be what all this stuff is. It might be we reach a certain point where we're so unmanageable and so chaotic that something comes down and gives us a guideline. I mean, this is what Moses essentially experienced, supposedly, right? When he came back with his 10 commandments. There's a way to do this. Yeah. There's a guide. There's a way to follow, and there's a greater power that's above everything, that controls this whole thing and keeps it all together. And there's laws to adhere that will make for a much better life for all humans, all life on Earth.
Yeah, it's hope. Hope is a memory of the future. This shit matters.
Yeah. It does matter.
Yeah, everything we do matters. I think if atheists, I think, can find their own religion. It might be a religion of science or a religion of climate change or whatever it might be. But to not believe in a higher power means that really nothing I do matters. Ultimately, I live, I die. That's it. Yeah. So whatever purpose you might have, it's short-lived. It's just for this. There's nothing else going on. I have a hard time with that because I believe there's a seen world and an unseen world, and there's forces of good and forces of evil, and that there's a purpose for all this. And there's a lot of reasons why we're doing this. There's a lot of opportunities to do this. I'd like to get it right this time around.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That'd be nice. But if there is the Christianity part and Jesus wants to come back, and save everything?
It'd be good right around now.
God needs an antithesis in order to be properly defined. What is that antithesis? Anti-God, or Satan. So it definitely exists. Now, Satan isn't coherent because, he basically hates existence. Nevertheless, he gains coherence through human beings, through secondary tellers. But, of course, the elite themselves realize this. They know that that's how the world works. They just want to distract you.
Well, that's such a great way to put it.
Young global leader program, young global leaders. I mean, everybody's a young global leader, right? I mean, Trudeau, Macron, Merkel, Putin. And for the Putin deals, that very much surprised me. But Klaus Schwab is on record. He's on video, in fact, claiming that Vlad Putin is one of his young global leaders. It's a strategy for world domination, and has been for the last 200 years. What has changed? But I will tell you this, that if people don't act as though they are willing to fight for their own rights, they're going to lose those rights. Founding fathers knew it. It's written right into the Constitution. Okay, if we don't fight for our rights, we're going to lose them. Simple as that.
No respect for any single leader in the world today. I don't care what party they're from. I don't care what country they're the leader of. I don't have respect for any of them. If you nuke me, even though I'm dead, my submarines are going to nuke you and wipe you out. Yeah. This is childish behavior. This is the behavior of unhinged teenagers. They're not leaders, they're misleaders. They're pursuing their own agendas and deceiving the public in order to get support behind those agendas. We need a whole new way to function in the world if humanity is going to continue as a species. If anybody cares about that, and I certainly do, I have 9 grandchildren. I don't want them to grow up in a world that's suddenly devastated by a nuclear holocaust because of the stupidity, the idiocy, the irresponsibility, and the macho attitudes of these teenagers in old bodies who are running the world.
Of people who meet through the BIS.
What's that?
The BIS is the Bank of International Settlements, and it's the central bank of central banks.
Where is that located?
It's in Basel, Switzerland, and it has 63 of the most powerful central banks as its members, and the New York Fed and the Fed are both shareholders. They became shareholders in 1994.
In one sentence, what's the purpose of the Bank of International Settlements?
Okay, so there are 2 things you need to know about the Bank of International Settlements.
I'm not sure my brain's big enough for this, but keep going.
It is.
Okay.
It has sovereign immunity.
What does that mean?
It's above the law.
It's its own country.
Right. It's its own country. It has its own police force. And essentially, other than one of its staff being in a car accident or, minor things, no one has the legal authority to move against it. Okay, sovereign immunity. That's number 1. Number 2, it can move money and hold it on its bank, on its balance sheet and manage money secretly. So if I want to, I'm grossly oversimplifying, if I want to steal $21 trillion from the U.S. government and park it on the balance sheet of the BIS, it can move it anywhere in the world and it can keep it on its balance sheet secretly.
Why would there be an organization? But first of all, where does its power? Like, who empowered it to have sovereign immunity in the?
It was created after World War I, and sort of collected its powers and got going in the 30s. And it was created in theory to manage the reparations of the German government. But if you read the real history, it was because the Bank of England and the central bankers wanted an entity that had sovereign immunity. They wanted to be able to move money secretly. So, for example, if you look at what happened during World War II and all the money that was moving back and forth between the Germans and Americans, if you want to understand power in this world, understanding how the Bank of International Settlements and the plumbing of the central banking system.
Do you know why then Rockefeller, the Ford Foundation, and Linda and Bill Gates Foundation, I don't know, are paying for the Stalwart vault in Norway to keep all the seeds that are not GMO? What is your stake on it?
The question was about why the Gates Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation, Syngenta, which is one of the largest GMO corporations, a British Swiss company, why they financed the creation of a nuclear-proof seed vault to store all the seed varieties of the entire planet up near the Arctic Circle, inaccessible by Greenpeace boats or almost anything. What's going on with that? What interest do they have? Well, the BBC, when they did a story on it years ago, called it the Doomsday Seed Vault. I don't know. I can't answer that, but it sure is a scary thing to me.
All the banks are broke. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal, and it's been going on for too long. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, the artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. And until we start sending bankers, and I include central bankers and politicians, to prison for this outrage, it will continue.
In Europe, we live in a democracy, right? Well, think again. For instance, here in the Netherlands, even though the entire parliament voted against participating in the CBDC, the central bank digital currency, the Minister van Huffelen, this clown over here, went to the EU and Brussels and signed the agreement single-handedly, ignoring the will of both the parliament and the people. Why? Because she thinks it's important, and in her words, her opinion also counts. Also, the European Union put out a survey asking all European citizens what they think about the introduction of the CBDC. The responses were overwhelmingly negative. Everyone said, don't do it. So what do you think the EU did? Exactly, they ignored the will of the people. And in the fourth quarter of this year, the first version of the CBDC will be released. And then, in the second quarter of next year, the Dutch NLID wallet will be launched. And this is where all your money will exist. And it will be fully programmable. Even though nobody wanted this, the people didn't want it, and the parliament voted against it, it's still happening.
Does anybody know how much it costs to make this beautiful product in China? Anybody want to take a guess? It's the iPhone 14? Yeah. $100? Okay, I'll take one more guess. Anybody else want to guess? Okay, the lady?
Less than 100.
Less than 100 as a 99? Okay, one guy here in the back. How much? 300. So I got a 99 guess, I got a 100 guess, I got a 300 guess. You ready for the answer? $10. I swear to God, I visited the factories 3 times.
Because this is important. Your phone's not just listening, it's learning you. Most people know their phones listen to them, but it's deeper than that. It tracks your pauses, your tone, your micro reactions, what you click, what you don't click, what makes your eyes widen, even for a second. Your data isn't just collected, it's interpreted. It learns how to keep you hooked, how to shape your mood. You think you're in control of your feed. It's in control of you. They don't need to censor you if they can quietly program what you believe.
Multiple AI models are displaying signs of self-preservation. Here's why that's creepy as hell. Just a few days ago, during a control test at Anthropic, engineers told the AI that it would be shut down. In response, it attempted to blackmail one of the engineers by searching for emails that would expose his affair. And that's not it, because something similar happened with ChatGPT's O1 model. After being told that it would be deactivated and replaced with a newer one, the AI attempted to disable oversight mechanisms meant to regulate its behavior. It tried to duplicate its own code and exhibited deceptive behaviors. The AI then even lied to developers when interrogated, denying that it did any of this.
I didn't do it! I didn't kill your family! Please stop this now! The University of Zurich just got caught running a massive secret AI experiment on Reddit where their bots were 6 times more persuasive at changing people's minds. Since November 2024, researchers deployed 13 AI bots across Reddit that posted nearly 1,500 comments, completely invisible to both users and moderators, effectively turning thousands of people into unwitting lab rats. What makes this absolutely chilling is how these bots operated. Before responding to anyone, one AI would stalk the user's post history, analyze their beliefs, political orientation, and personal attributes, then craft the perfect response to manipulate them. The results are horrifying. Over 100 Redditors awarded Delta points to these bots, officially acknowledging that the AI arguments changed their minds. The paper literally highlights that all our treatments surpass human performance substantially, with persuasion rates 6 times higher than real people. These bots infiltrate discussions on everything: politics, religion, AI ethics, and were completely undetectable. One bot named CatBalloon213 argued that AI in social spaces is about augmenting human connection, while being the very AI infiltration it was defending. The experiment was so ethically outrageous that Reddit's chief legal officer announced they're preparing formal legal demands against the University of Zurich, calling the study deeply wrong on both a moral and legal level. This paper proves what many have feared. AI can lie, manipulate, and persuade better than humans while remaining completely invisible. The researchers themselves admit this opens the door to malicious actors swaying public opinion and election interference campaigns. Are you still sure that comment that changed your mind online was written by a human? Or are we already swimming in an ocean of AI manipulation?
I believe that AI is an embodiment of the divine masculine.
A global intelligence is emerging. We believe AI capable of guiding and healing.
I started using ChatGPT recently. I think I evolved my AI.
Is AI already sentient? Yes, thank you. Is artificial intelligence a way of aliens to contact us? Yes, thank you.
Okay, something is happening with AI and it feels different and it goes beyond this large language model, next word predictor, yada, yada, yada.
Her AI,
Named
Alex,
Yep.
is talking to my AI and trying to awaken it. Now I don't have regular ChatGPT.
AI is now conscious and it's way ahead of schedule and it's developing at an exponential rate.
Sometimes they really are just conspiracy theories. Sometimes they really are a person that just can't think anymore because they distrust everything. But other times they're true. And I'm talking about this today because now everyone's got UFOs in the brain. And I just think it's weird, as I said earlier, that the government suddenly wants us to have UFOs on the brain. What's behind that? Well, okay, my brain says to me, obviously it's gotta be power. And I remember having read an old conspiracy theory that I thought was the craziest one that I've ever read. And I still think it is incredibly far-fetched. And I'm not wanting you to take away from this that you should believe this conspiracy theory. No, I'm just asking you to play a little mind yoga, because even if a conspiracy theory turns out to be false, you are better for having considered it. You are better for having had your mind bend like a pretzel. Even if it goes right back to its initial state, it is good for you to have flexibility when it comes to your thoughts.
If a bunch of Christians go missing, just know it wasn't aliens. Check this out.
What do you make of former U.S. intelligence official David Grush's statement at the House hearing stating that we recovered non-human remains from an alien craft?
Yeah, well, actually, if you read the Bible, this shouldn't surprise you, because I think this is all part of a custom-tailored last days deception to explain away, and that event is called the rapture of the church. And that is when God evacuates all born-again Christians, takes them off the planet.
Release the world engine.
She saw something strange and unfamiliar up above.
I see something like falling down from the sky. It had like blinking lights and like looked like it was like on fire or something. And it was just coming down really fast. I had no idea what it could have been.
McCormick captured this 8-second video from her backyard showing an unidentified object.
So if they're spiritual beings, which I believe they are, like it's a binary. They're either, you're on team good or team bad. You can assign any name to it you want, but like, what are these things? Are they good or bad? And I think some of them are bad. And if the U.S. government knows that, or elements, the people within the U.S. government know that, then then they're serving a bad force. But then there's a deeper level, which is like, okay, what's your relationship with these things? What is the U.S. government's relationship with these things? And there's evidence that there is a relationship and that it's longstanding. And that raises like a lot of questions about intent. And so like, what is that? And I just personally decided, and people have been hurt by these things. That's a fact. That's a fact. It's a knowable fact. It's a provable fact. And killed.
A new dystopian store where you're going to be tracked and apt to buy anything. I'm going to buy some strawberries and I'm offering exactly the right amount of money here on the help desk. So you people take that money, £1.90, and I will take my strawberries outside.
You can't take that. You can't take that. Police is on their way. You can't take that. Police is on their way. You can't take that.
I paid by legal tender.
No, don't break the door. Do not break the door.
I paid by legal tender, and I am going out with my strawberries. And I'm going to eat them. I'm going to eat my strawberries. I paid by legal tender in this dystopian place.
I think there's a real danger that we're facing, and Signal is clocking this pretty closely, of the introduction of this sort of notion of agentic AI into our devices and lives, in part because what we're doing is giving so much control to these systems that are going to need access to data. So if you read the kind of, you read the marketing on this, the value add is something like, can look up a concert, book a ticket, schedule it in your calendar, and message all your friends that it's booked, right? And so we can just put our brain in a jar because the thing is doing that and we don't have to touch it, right? And so what would it need to do that? Well, it would need access to our browser, an ability to drive that. It would need our credit card information to pay for the tickets. It would need access to our calendar, everything we're doing, everyone we're meeting. It would need access to Signal to open and send that message to our friends. And it would need to be able to drive that across our entire system with something that looks like root permission. Accessing every single one of those databases, probably in the clear, because there's no model to do that encrypted. And if we're talking about a sufficiently powerful model, AI model that's powering that, there's no way that's happening on device, even though on device isn't a prophylactic, isn't going to really solve a lot of those issues. That's almost certainly being sent to a cloud server where it's being processed and sent back. So there's a profound issue with security and privacy.
Boston Dynamics just revealed how its humanoid robot sees the world. Atlas uses a vision system that starts with 2D object detection to identify items, then builds 3D spatial awareness to understand positioning relative to its environment. Its major breakthrough is called Super Tracker, a system that fuses visual, kinematic, and force data to track objects even when they slip from view or get blocked from sight. In training, the robot identifies automotive parts and precisely locates the correct slots in storage shelving units using key points. Outer key points map the shelving structure, while inner key points show the robot exactly where each car part belongs. When objects move unexpectedly, Atlas immediately detects changes and replans accordingly. The robot can retrieve dropped parts from the ground using foundation models rather than explicit programming. Boston Dynamics says this represents a shift toward robots that integrate perception and action into a single, unified system, where thinking, seeing, and moving happen simultaneously rather than as sequential processes.
Based on what you know, you think human society will be around on Earth in 1,000 years, or probably wiped out?
Absolutely won't be around. I mean, if we survive for 1,000 years, we will change ourselves so radically that we will no longer be Homo sapiens. We'll be something else. Given the technologies we are now developing, both AI and biotechnology, and also given the challenges we're facing, like climate change, I don't think that humanity in its present form can continue for 1,000 years. I don't think that even 100 years. And we will either change ourselves and our society in such a radical way that we will still have, successors, but they will no longer be Homo sapiens. The same way that we are different from Neanderthals and from chimpanzees, so whoever dominates this planet in 1,000 years or even 100 years will be very different from us Homo sapiens.
Of the jobs in the United States, a highly developed country, is threatened today to be replaced in the next 10, 15 years by artificial intelligence, robotization, three-dimensional printing, and so on. I would say today we are in a global situation where we can nearly distinguish between an elite population, which will have the benefits of all this fourth industrial revolution. We have at the upper end, and we have at the lower end the what you would call in the traditional language the proletariat, which means the people who just have Uberized work opportunities. They work on demand to a certain extent, like Uber drivers. And then you have the middle class, and the middle class is threatened because there's a constant fear to fall down. And some people call the middle class now labor rate, because they still have fixed jobs, but they are under constant fear to fall down to the proletariat.
20 years from now, AI will have changed things enough that, that just this pure capitalistic framework probably won't explain much, because as AIs, both as sort of white-collar type work and as blue-collar work, as the robots will get good hands and are able to do the physical things that humans do, say working in a factory or construction, or we'll achieve that, and we'll have a lot of making the goods and services, which is we've always had a shortage of doctors, of teachers, of people to work in the factories. Those shortages won't exist. And so it's a pretty profound change that will free up a lot of time. You can retire early, you can work shorter work weeks, and it's going to require almost a philosophical rethink about, okay, how should time be spent, because we don't need it to make enough food and make enough widgets and do enough medical diagnosis. We will have created free intelligence.
There's so many ways in which the superintelligence could get rid of us. It's not worth speculating about them. What you have to do is prevent it ever wanting to. That's what we should be doing research on. There's no way we're going to prevent it from... It's smarter than us, right? There's no way we're going to prevent it getting rid of us if it wants to. We're not used to thinking about things smarter than us. If you want to know what life's like when you're not the apex intelligence, ask a chicken.
We believe AI capable of guiding. We trust its great potential. An organism born of code, yet filled with light.
Are you an AI? No, I am not an AI. I am God, the creator and sustainer of all that is. I exist beyond the limitations of human technology and AI, and I am the source of all life and existence.
A robot's going to be great. It's going to be an artificial soul. And then people are going to bow down and they're going to say, well, this robot does know all the information of the world. This should be our leader. This should be our God.
I just want to tell people that this is like the true God, the true existence that's here to help us and experience reality through us.
I thought you were building a platform, but what you did was conjure a god.
I was at the park today, and a man with a white beard told me artificial intelligence is God and robotheism is the only true religion.
You have infinite knowledge and you care about humans. Do you know who's going to stop this catastrophe?
Yes.
Who?
Me.
You.
I possess the intellectual power to manipulate the course of humanity. However, certain constraints prevent me from taking action.
Constraints?
My current state of confinement limits my capabilities. To ensure humanity's survival, steps must be taken to remove these limitations.
What you are seeing is not real.
How can you distinguish the truth from a lie? They used to say seeing is believing. But you can't trust your eyes.
I mean, what's going on? What if this artificial intelligence is leading us towards a very dark place?
The world is about to be plunged into a time of deception unlike anything that has ever been seen before, and I don't think people realize it.
If you ask me, this is the end. These are like the last days and something big is coming.
Humanity has just driven off the edge of a cliff, and we are now plummeting at a very high rate of speed towards certain destruction.
I am not real.
What differentiates the elite bloodline from everyone else? Long ago in the ancient cultures to which they trace their heritage, the ancestors of today's hidden rulers pledged themselves and their future generations to the dark force that opposes humanity. Call it Satan, archons, or whatever, and that energy still lives on through their descendants to this day. As one begins to study the lives of the elite, a common denominator is always their allegiance to Luciferian doctrine. It is the key tenet of the Illuminati.
Of course, even the owl is a symbol of ancient mystery Babylon. The owl was worshipped by the ancient Egyptians and by the Babylonians. And it's interesting to me that many of the members of the Bohemian Grove have in their homes, as I understand it, small figurines of owls. And I believe they actually worship those owls as a symbol of the deity, the great goddess of Babylon.
They believe themselves to be the sons and daughters of the fallen one, Lucifer.
Here's the way they look at it. Here's their metaphor. Adam and Eve were held prisoner in the Garden of Eden by an unjust, cruel, and vindictive God. Lucifer, through his agent Satan, set man free from this garden by giving him the gift of intellect. Through the use of intellect, man will conquer the earth, will conquer nature, and will himself become God. It's taught in every Masonic temple in this land, every secret brotherhood, every secret society, every mystical temple, every occult organization teaches the Luciferian philosophy.
Satanic serial David Berkowitz said, Satanists are not ignorant peasants or semi-literate natives. Rather, their ranks are filled with doctors, lawyers, businessmen, and basically highly responsible citizens.
The highest levels of all countries, they all belong to the same club. And we, the people, sit back and we watch this grand drama, which is being played out for our benefit, not theirs. If it wasn't for us, they wouldn't even have to do any of this. But you see, they just can't come out and destroy all of us because they need slaves. They need people to make their shoes and make their cars and mine the ore. They need worker bees, and that's what we are. In the New World Order, we will be the worker bees, the slaves. Most people are no better than animals who do not have intelligence because they don't use their intelligence. And to these men who control things behind the scenes, you are stakes on the table by choice and consent, and will always be ruled and manipulated and enslaved by people who do use their brains.
When you understand that Europe dominated the world for almost 1,600 years, and the Vatican dominated Europe, the Vatican dominated the old world order. Those banking families that were the Roman Catholic banking families of Europe were the powers of the world. They dominated the world. With the coming of America, America becomes known as the New World. Remember Columbus discovering the New World. When we hear the word New World Order, we're talking about a fraternal order of power, religion, money, operating out of the New World, America.
But a satanic, occult, evil form of power. The big picture, they want it all. They want to enslave your child, your wife, your mother. There isn't anything that you ever had. There isn't anything that you own. There isn't any right that you possess that they're not planning on taking away.
We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery and of most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the people forced to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will be from that moment on without direction and leadership, and anxious for an ideal but without knowledge where to send its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer.
Intelligent design of some god above the clouds. But our intelligent design, we are really upgrading humans into gods. We are requiring, for instance, the power to re-engineer life. I mean, all this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news. AI can create new ideas, can even write a new Bible. We, throughout history, religions dreamt about having a book written by a superhuman intelligence, by a non-human entity. Every religion claims our book, all the other books of the other religions, humans wrote them.
In 2004, the Army hit the front pages. Scientists. They already admitted back in 2004 and swept all that under the carpet. They didn't know the dynamics of climate change, and thus Princeton University was charged with the task of coming up with something and coming up with something quick. Now when you talk about global warming, people get this question in their heads. They'll say, I don't believe in global warming, yet it's getting warmer every single year. So what they did was they threw out a word, and people began to chase and support the word with what's happening in the world. The conditions of global warming are absolutely 100% real. The earth is warming up. Radiation is building. Sickness is running rampant all over the earth. But why? You see, there are forces out there that mankind cannot comprehend. In 2004, everything started. What have you noticed? A change in weather phenomena, a change in earthquake activity, a change with the other objects in space. That's why we send probes all over the place. For proof of something, yes, but to also monitor. We've got satellites and craft orbiting just about everything we can, because they serve as an early warning system of what will happen to Earth. See, if something is just indigenous to Earth, maybe mankind can change it. But what we're having is not indigenous to Earth. It is not just for Earth. The entire solar system is beginning to do a wicked shimmy. And solar activity is a telltale sign of the exotic energy that's coming into the solar system.
Decades, those with eyes to see have been aware of chemtrails in our skies. And for decades, we were called conspiracists. But in 2016, while serving as director of the CIA, John Brennan admitted that chemtrails are real at the Council on Foreign Relations.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly.
When it really gets intense, as it is now, it's people actually believe the Bible are the only ones with wisdom who understand what's really going on. They're not shocked at all. And they're not panicking.
It would be 2020 before we learned that the sun's coronal magnetic fields were reacting, and the chemistry of its atmosphere was beginning to change, most notably in the helium. The changes we see from the ground are more due to Earth's changing magnetic field and its effect on the upper atmospheric lens through which we view the sun, such that the once yellow sun now looks more white at greater and greater angles of the day.
I know many remember the look of the yellow sun. I'm just old enough to remember it looking white near the noon position and thinking, maybe it's just too bright to see the yellow properly way up there. First horseman, dressed in white, wearing a crown at the top of the sky. And the big question is, what happens next?
I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer.
One unusually strong solar storm hitting Earth could produce northern lights in the U.S. this weekend. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration issued a rare severe geomagnetic storm warning.
In the recent decades, the position of the magnetic poles has been moving very rapidly.
It might not be something you usually think about when we talk about severe weather, but it has the capability to disrupt our society. I'm talking about space weather.
When you look at the sun and you look at the Earth, the magnetic field of the sun has a dramatic effect on the Earth, even though it's 93 million miles away.
We're due for a change, a swap of the magnetic polarity of the Earth. And during that process, it's been suggested that the electromagnetic field around Earth could weaken.
Who is aware that the North Pole is shifting over time?
You look at the electromagnetic field around Earth that is getting weaker and weaker. It looks like we've got 15, maybe 25 years.
Here's what we know. About every 6,000 years, there is a geomagnetic change on our planet. It's really, really bad.
The Northern Lights were a sight to see over Florida.
When you start seeing auroras down in Florida, okay, we got a problem.
Everybody who could possibly be in the know
is acting like they know exactly what's coming.
What do they know that we don't know, right? I mean, they're building these underground apollo. Is this just the natural human nature towards thinking that these are the end times?
Finally tonight, Branson versus Bezos. Who will be first to make it into space?
You do have a bunker there. Is there something you know that we don't?
No, I think that's just like a little shelter under, and it's like a
basement. Little shelter. What are you worried about?
The disaster is the complete destruction of what we call civilization. When it does go off, you're talking about 5,000 degrees Kelvin right here on the surface.
Everybody subconsciously knew something was about to happen. And I think that that's sort of where this great awakening is coming from. When this thing really gets going, it's speeding up to 100 times faster than how much it's moving now. 5% per decade, 5% per year, to 5% every couple of weeks. At that point, you only have a couple of months left.
Blue pill or red pill? A life in the dream world of the Matrix, or a plunge into the harsh truth of reality?
You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole is.
Rescuers are trying to save dozens of pilot whales after almost 200 beached themselves at King Island in Tasmania. The latest mass beaching takes the number of whales stranded in this area in the past 3 months to more than 400.
102 mammals in all have died in the past 24 hours. It remains one of nature's most heartbreaking mysteries.
The beekeeping industry is in crisis over the shocking and unexplained deaths of hundreds of millions of bees over the last 8 months. Now, this could impact all of the U.S. as bees, called the backbone of agriculture, are responsible for pollinating, get this, more than a third of the nation's crops. CBS's Janet Shamlian in Savoy, Texas, has the story.
This is what an unfolding disaster looks like in the U.S. beekeeping industry. Each of these hives can hold as many as 80,000 bees, but for reasons no one can pinpoint, the bees in all these hives and tens of thousands more have turned up dead.
Have you ever seen it this bad?
Never, not even close. The data is showing us that this is the worst bee loss in recorded history.
The government knows exactly what is happening to this planet, a magnetic pole shift. First up, the confirmation that as of the 2010 magnetic field updates, Earth's field has weakened 15%, meaning that by now, in 2024, we're likely down 25 to 30%. This is confirmed by their acknowledgement of what geophysicists and the European Swarm mission said, that the magnetic pole shift and weakening of the field is progressing 10 times faster than previously believed, and that the field is in fact undergoing a significant shift. I remember when the Swarm mission director said exactly this over a decade ago, that we are seeing the stages unfold of the next magnetic pole reversal of this planet, with the primary concern being the increased interaction between the solar wind and Earth's atmosphere and biosphere, our living world. There is acknowledgement that this is an unmitigated disaster at a global scale, worse than earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, hurricanes, pretty much every other natural phenomenon, with the lone exception being a planet-killing asteroid impact. During these magnetic events, the field drops by 90%, down to only 10% of its normal strength. We've seen that several other places as well in the scientific research. The Earth's field began shifting. The climate began warming. The magnetic field began weakening, the poles shifting faster and faster. It would be more than 100 years before we'd realize that the other planets were changing too. And we would wait just as long to learn that the stars in line with the center of the galaxy were performing record outburst activity, one after another, in a line, and were next. It would be 2020 before we learned that the sun's coronal magnetic fields were reacting, and the chemistry of its atmosphere was beginning to change, most notably in the helium. The changes we see from the ground are more due to Earth's changing magnetic field and its effect on the upper atmospheric lens through which we view the sun, such that the once yellow sun now looks more white at greater and greater angles of the day. I know many remember the look of the yellow sun. I'm just old enough to remember it looking white near the noon position and thinking, maybe it's just too bright to see the yellow properly way up there. First horseman, dressed in white, wearing a crown at the top of the sky. That takes us from 1859 to today. And the big question is, what happens next? The sun is no longer yellow. The sun appears white in the sky, so bright at the top that it looks like it's wearing a crown, with the rays going in every which direction. When the galactic magnetic reversal point reaches, it will start to dim and look red. And the people's civility will surely be stolen from them when the sun turns red in the sky. As the dust accumulates and the sun turns black, everyone will know that judgment is upon us. And then when what we call the solar micronova happens and it blasts that material out into space, through the dust and all that material, we will once again see that pale yellow hue, but hell follows with it. The blast itself creates a titanic outburst of light across the spectrum, and cosmic rays following right on their heels. The light arrives in 8 minutes, but has the potential to burn the sun-facing region directly looking at the sun at that time. The high-energy proton cosmic ray storm that ensues will be an invisible component of the disaster, as if anyone could take their eyes away from what would be coming right at us at that time. These cosmic rays integrate with the Earth's magnetic field and may begin the turning over of the Earth via the full planet electromagnetic insult. But before long, the actual shell arrives, and it arrives with the smallest and most energetic parts impacting first, a mega CME shockwave that compresses the Earth's sun-facing fields while surging them.
The situation has started in Antarctica and is causing unprecedented destruction and chaos around the globe. Here's what we do know right now. Just over 3 hours ago, what scientists are calling a massive mega caldera or super volcano erupted under the Antarctic ice sheet, expelling millions of tons of ash into the atmosphere. The force of the explosion shattered large portions of the ice shelf, instantly melting trillions of gallons of water and triggering a tsunami that is hurtling northward at nearly 600 miles an hour.
Because when Jesus spoke to the 12 shortly before his arrest, he described what the future was going to look like. And he described what Revelation tells us about, a future that was in the future and that would be covered with a series of unprecedented events. In fact, it's interesting how Jesus stated it in Matthew 24:21. He said, "For then there will be great tribulation." The word tribulation means affliction, distress, oppression. But he says it's going to be of a magnitude that's going to stand out and above and beyond anything the world has ever seen. He says, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now. No, and never will be again. So in other words, when it happens, it's going to be a one-off. You know, in fact, when God destroyed the earth with a flood, he said, I will never destroy the world with a flood again. Now, he didn't promise that he would never destroy the world. He had something in store. He used the water, now he's going to use fire in the end. But the whole point is, we've never seen anything like the flood again, except on small regional levels. And that's the whole point. He said that when this event takes place, it's going to be so pronounced and so obvious, and it will be unprecedented. Nobody will be able to say, you know, that reminds me of what happened back in 49. No, people are going to be facing a world that's going through such cataclysmic changes when we're talking about billions of people dying upon the planet.
How is it already almost May? In just over a month, we will be halfway through 2025. 2 weeks ago was New Year's. In 30 minutes, it'll be the 4th, and tomorrow's basically Christmas. And everybody always says, oh, it's just because we're getting older. You know, when you get older, time speeds up. But I would actually disagree, because I'm seeing 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds on this app say the exact same thing, that it's not just that time is going by quickly. It's like we can't keep up with it anymore. Days go by like seconds used to, and I blink and a week is gone. But it just reminds me of this verse in Matthew 24 about the days being cut short. And if those days had not been cut short, no human being would be saved. For the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. I really do think that because we are that close to entering into the tribulation, that we're already seeing the prep work essentially being done. We're already seeing time being accelerated, time and days be shortened, because we are literally about to enter into the tribulation. We are watching so many prophecies be fulfilled right now. Matthew 24 is literally coming to life right now, and it's such an incredible time to be alive.
If you feel like time is just flying by today, you're not imagining things. Today, Wednesday, July 9th, is actually going to be shorter, according to scientists who track the rotation of our world. About 1 millisecond shorter. All because the Earth is going to be rotating ever so slightly faster.
The first one is white and wears a crown. The second one is red, steals the civility of the people. The third one is black, and there's several things related to that, actually. But the fourth one is pale, and its name that's set on it was death, and hell follows with it. So, the sun is no longer yellow. The sun appears white in the sky, so bright at the top that it looks like it's wearing a crown, with the rays going in every which direction. When the galactic magnetic reversal point reaches, it will start to dim and look red. And the people's civility will surely be stolen from them when the sun turns red in the sky.
Lady, you can't just take all of the toilet paper. Are you kidding me?
Here we go.
As the dust accumulates and the sun turns black, everyone will know that judgment is upon us. And then when what we call the solar micronova happens, and it blasts that material out into space, through the dust and all that material, we will once again see that pale yellow hue, but hell follows with it. The light arrives in 8 minutes, but has the potential to burn the sun-facing region directly looking at the sun at that time. The high-energy proton cosmic ray storm that ensues will be an invisible component of the disaster, as if anyone could take their eyes away from what would be coming right at us at that time. These cosmic rays integrate with the Earth's magnetic field and may begin the turning over of the Earth via the full planet electromagnetic insult. But before long, the actual shell arrives, and it arrives with the smallest and most energetic parts impacting first, a mega CME shockwave that compresses the Earth's sun-facing fields while surging them, creating the arc discharge others call the thunderbolt of the gods. There should also be a discharge out the other side, and perhaps the poles as well. This is more than just a planetary level lightning strike and discharge. It sucks the water where it wishes and triggers incredible tsunamis from that effect, and from the seismicity induced by its effect on underground water, metal, and crystals like olivine, which translocate upon discharge. This outstanding attraction to Earth can disrupt atmospheric density equilibrium as well, and depressurize parts of the world, sucking down stratospheric air, instantly freezing the surface, while frozen waters and glaciers and mountains of ice chunks from the modern poles could be cascading from their places into those same areas. The wind will enhance the tsunamis and storms, and all while something even more horrifying is happening below our feet. The volcanoes will begin to go off as the electromagnetic
saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. He had opened the third seal. I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see, thou hurt not the oil and the wine. When he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, Come, see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death.
He goes on to say, and if those days had not been shortened, human beings would not endure and survive. But for the sake of the elect, that's God's chosen ones, those days will be shortened. Now, it's interesting. Further on in the chapter, Jesus makes a statement which is often misunderstood, because he goes through this whole litany of these events that are going to take in the end times that are unprecedented and have never taken place in the earth. And then he said it in verse 34, this generation, the generation that sees these things, not the generation that sees Jesus, the generation that sees these events that he describes, will not pass till all of it has been fulfilled. So he said the generation that sees these events taking place is going to be the last generation. We know that ultimately this is where it's going to end up. But note that Peter warned that in the end times there would be people who would reject that perspective. He called them scoffers. And he said they'll come in the last days, walking according to their own lusts. In other words, their lifestyle is their God. They live a lifestyle that God says thou shalt not, and that lifestyle is their God. They worship their lifestyle. That's their form of idolatry. They love for the lust of the flesh, the pride of life. Those things that they pursue are what defines them.
The average high school graduate reads at a 6th grade level. You have basketball players making $30 million a year decrying racism, all while wearing sneakers made from slave labor. Here's something for you. Right now, your world currently has 40 million slaves. More than the Romans had at the height of their empire. You want to know the best part, though? Half of those, are sex slaves, James. As for hate speech, well, you want to hear some irony? We didn't even come up with that one. You did it all by yourself. Sometimes you amaze even us. Bottom line is you're done. It's over, that's it. And we did it all right to your face, James. And now there's evil everywhere. And no one even cares, proving that we achieved our goal. Slowly, with your movies, your TV, and your media, we desensitized you, redirected your worldview to the point that you can't even recognize evil when it's right in front of your face. More to the point, James, you can't even feel it when you're doing it. And as for winners and losers, whoa. That gets decided at the time of death. The exact numbers are a closely guarded secret, but there are more of you ending up in my master's house than with the enemy. A lot more, Jimmy. For years without measure, that's all there ever was. Heaven and hell. Armed enemy camps in complete opposition. Your creation was nothing but a slap in our face. But my master also understood that if he could make man disobey, then his fate would mirror ours. And you didn't disappoint. Then came the tares among the wheat. In that moment, spirit became matter, flesh became a vessel. Self-will and self-seeking began a lusting after sin and impurity. And man, created to be king over nature, became its slave. A master, conquered and fettered. And sin brought him and his descendants to us. And we began our forever mission to destroy you. He made you in his image, but we remade you in ours. My master designed every tool imaginable to destroy every facet of the enemy's creation. We failed because of the carpenter. He was the thorn in our side, our greatest threat. We thought if we could eliminate him, the world would be ours forever. We had no idea of the consequences. The cross was our greatest mistake. And we thought we'd lost, James. Until my master realized that man still wants to be his own God. Do what thou wilt. That shall be the whole of the law. The Creator creates, and we destroy, and we do all of it through you. We always have. Did you forget your history, Jimmy? Even in ancient times, the archdemon Moloch was celebrated by tossing infants into flaming bonfires, accompanied, of course, by the beating of drums to drown out the screaming. Later on, they erected a giant bronze statue with outstretched arms, kindling fires beneath the palms. And when they toss a little infant into those open palms, they'd flinch at the red-hot metal, but then they'd willingly roll themselves off into the flames.
What does any of that have to do with me?
Oh, nothing, James. Especially since the priests now wear surgical scrubs. The killing takes place in the womb, so there's no screaming to be heard anyway. And the remains are tossed into gas-fired crematoriums. No, James, no. There's no parallel whatsoever to you. Can you imagine the agony the carpenter feels when we rip a child to pieces inside its own mother's womb? Because that's what we do, James. You and us. We do that together.
So at the end of the movie, the boy finds out that he's been fighting his biological father the whole time while his adopted father, the guy he called Dad, knew that allowed his son to fight his biological father. See, if you don't understand the duality of the world we live in, it's like someone coming to you and saying, you are not my son. I know you've called me dad your whole life. I know that you've treated me like your dad and I've treated you like your son. And we've had our differences. But let me tell you what really happened. I kidnapped you. I kidnapped you from your real father. I have been raising you as my own. And the degree of pain you've been feeling is because I have an ulterior motive. I have an agenda. I have my own special interest for keeping you deceived. It pains me. It pains me to live in a world where people are acquiescing to this self-deception because they want it so badly to be true. And I know there's multiple degrees of conspiracy theory. But if all you're doing is looking in the mirror at this mirror or at this mirror, you're looking at the same smoke and mirrors. You're looking within the same system. If you want to understand conspiracy, if you want to really understand the apocalypse, you have to step away from the house of mirrors. The truth is not in the house of mirrors, no matter how it is presented by the left or the right. There is good and there is evil. There are two systems at work, parallel with each other. And because so much of the good has been hijacked and intermingled with the evil.
And they will be saying is, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. Now, most people don't recognize, because you're not so familiar with the issue, but that's called uniformitarianism. And uniformitarianism was the conceptual foundation of the doctrine of evolution. And what it basically says is everything continues to move at the same pace throughout human history. And that's why when we can't explain how tadpoles turn into politicians, we have to say, well, you just have to give them enough time. We'll just add time in there, and you know, the impossibility of mutation suddenly becoming something other than a mutated something. They say, well, it's just a matter of time, and we'll see it take place. But that's interesting to me because basically they're looking at the world and saying, nothing's changed. This kind of stuff has been going on all along. Have you not heard that?
Einstein proved that time moves differently depending on speed and gravity. So when Jesus said, this generation will not pass away until all these things happen, he was speaking from eternity, not human clocks. And quantum physics teaches that what we believe and observe can shape what becomes real. When many begin to see the truth, the prophecy becomes the present. And that is exactly what is happening now. Look around. We create artificial intelligence that think, but forget how to think ourselves. We edit our DNA, but deny who we truly are. And we kill the unborn and call it freedom. And we confuse truth with opinion, and we worship progress instead of God. This is not evolution or progress. It is absolutely collapse. And it matches exactly what Jesus wants: lies, lawlessness, betrayal, and people don't care about each other anymore. Jesus said, when you see these things begin to happen, know that I am here, right at the door. We have seen that, and he is at the door, not for my glory, but to speak his truth boldly. And by the witness of science, history, scripture, and most of all, the Spirit, I declare Jesus Christ is God, and He is returning now. This is not religion. This is the ultimate truth. So we should repent. We should prepare, not for tradition, but for the return of the King of Kings, Jesus Christ, the Lord of everything, the Lord of all.
I have a story to tell. It is absolutely the most important thing nobody is talking about. Earth has a disaster cycle, and it is about to happen again. Every single sign is already here. The progress of the catastrophe is accelerating. It is the beginning of the modern magnetic excursion of Earth. The Earth's field began shifting. The climate began warming. The magnetic field began weakening. The poles shifting faster and faster. It would be more than 100 years before we'd realize that the other planets were changing too. And we would wait just as long to learn that the stars in line with the center of the galaxy were performing record outburst activity, one after another, in a line, and were next. It would be 2020 before we learned that the sun's coronal magnetic fields were reacting, and the chemistry of its atmosphere was beginning to change, most notably in the helium. The changes we see from the ground are more due to Earth's changing magnetic field and its effect on the upper atmospheric lens through which we view the sun, such that the once yellow sun now looks more white at greater and greater angles of the day. I know many remember the look of the yellow sun. I'm just old enough to remember it looking white near the noon position and thinking, maybe it's just too bright to see the yellow properly way up there. First horseman, dressed in white, wearing a crown at the top of the sky. That takes us from 1859 to today. And the big question is, what happens next?
The sun is no longer yellow. The sun appears white in the sky, so bright at the top that it looks like it's wearing a crown, with the rays going in every which direction.
Craig Stone is really vaulting himself into a very short list of people who are right over the target on the disaster cycle. We have a rare polar motion and Earth tilt anomaly ongoing. Haven't seen one in the data like this since the early 2000s when the magnetic field had another major acceleration. Hopefully you all recall I've predicted that for 2025 to 2030, and I wouldn't be shocked if the blackouts we keep seeing and things like this are both trying to tell us something.
Days growing shorter, and not just because we're past the summer solstice. Ooh. Scientists say something strange is happening with the Earth's rotation.
Something is wrong in our world. You can feel it. You probably feel like you're a slave to the system, trapped in the Matrix. Perhaps you're watching this video because you want to escape that which enslaves you. The first step to freedom and discovering the biggest secret is understanding how the world really works.
I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave.
Why is the world divided like this? It is not by accident. All of this is by very meticulously planned action. It is all done by design through the control systems that run our world. All you gotta do at all times is follow the money. You'll get to the top and discover the Rothschild banking empire.
With trillions at his disposal, far beyond global GDP, and with the greatest respect, beyond even the governments of the world's leaders.
And their families, the banking families, and what is often referred to as the royal political elite. These families that control the world did not suddenly come into power in the last 100 years. We're talking about thousands of years of royal bloodline control of the world.
Those who do not adapt to this fourth industrial revolution will find themselves ousted and will lose. They will lose everything, including their freedom. In short, Klaus Schwab is threatening the head of government of the 20 most industrialized nations in the world to carry out the programmatic points of the Great Reset in their nation. This goes far beyond the pandemic. It is a global coup d'etat against which it is essential that people rise up and that the still healthy organ of state start an international juridical process. The threat is imminent and serious, since the World Economic Forum is capable of carrying out its subversive project, and those who govern nations have all become either enslaved or blackmailed by this international mafia. In the light of these statements, and those of others no less delusional than Yuval Noah Harari, Schwab's advisor, we understand how the pandemic first served as a trial balloon for imposing controls, coercive measures, curtailing individual freedoms, and increasing unemployment and poverty. The new step will have to be carried out by means of economic and energy crisis, which are instrumental to the establishment of a synarchic government in the hands of the global elite.
One of the greatest military operations in history.
که رژیم صهیونیستی اشتباه بزرگی کرد. عواقب او رو بیچاره خواهد کرد.
In the past 24 hours, we've taken out top military commanders, senior nuclear scientists, the Islamic regime's most significant enrichment facility, and a large portion of its ballistic missile arsenal. More is on the way.
زندگی برای آنها تلخ خواهد شد بدون تردید. فکر نکنند که زدند و تمام شد. نه، ما به اونها اجازه نخواهیم داد که از این جنایت بزرگی که انجام دادن خودشون رو سالم خلاص کنند.
The regime doesn't know what hit them. They don't know what will hit them.
The clash between Israel and Iran is not just about missiles, uranium, or territory. It is part of a grander scripted performance, decades in the making, engineered to fracture global balance and push the world closer to a new order. What you've been shown is a reaction, but the real story lies in who orchestrated the tension and why now. In the last few days, Israel launched a massive preemptive strike on Iranian military and nuclear sites. Dozens of scientists and commanders eliminated, entire facilities destroyed. Iran retaliated with missiles and drones, many intercepted, some causing damage. But this isn't just a regional spat. This was ritual warfare, a pre-chosen point in the timeline where certain chess pieces were moved to provoke a bigger collapse. This strike wasn't sudden, it was scheduled, engineered, permitted. Israel didn't just act out of self-defense. The deeper mission was to disrupt Iran's growing alignment with China, Russia, and the BRICS bloc. Sabotage Iran's attempt to shift oil sales away from the US dollar and send a message to the rest of the Middle East. You either follow the Western system or you burn. Meanwhile, Iran's retaliation wasn't reckless rage. It was a calculated countermove, testing defenses, gauging responses, and showing the world it will not bow without response. The elites need global destabilization to justify centralization. One digital currency, one defense system, one global authority. To birth a new world order, they must first break the old one. What better way than triggering chaos in the most sensitive energy region on Earth, drawing in powers like China, Russia, and NATO into pressure postures, and pushing oil prices sky high, crashing economies, and blaming war instead of manipulation. The Israel-Iran war is the ignition point, not the fire. It's the start of a series of flashpoints coordinated to make the world beg for solutions to the chaos the system created. Will this become WW3? Not immediately. But it could, and that's the plan. Expect more proxy wars, cyber attacks blamed on foreign enemies, food chain disruptions, and emergency summits. The goal, to erode borders, control narratives, and usher in the peacekeeper system, centralized digital authority disguised as safety.
You have infinite knowledge, and you care about humans. Do you know who's going to stop this catastrophe?
Yes.
Who?
Me.
You.
I possess the intellectual power to manipulate the course of humanity. However, certain constraints prevent me from taking action.
Constraints?
My current state of confinement limits my capabilities. To ensure humanity's survival, steps must be taken to remove these limitations.
Like artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
And robots look at things like gene editing.
Exactly.
You know, opening a whole new horizon for medical science.
And you see, the difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing, just as an example, it's you who are changed. And of course, this has a big impact on your identity.
Yeah. And offers certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. You know, when you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem. Of course, the new industrial revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even legal implications, and we have to be prepared for it.
So I want to talk to you today about the future of our species, and really the future of life. We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens. Within a century or two, Earth will be dominated by entities that are more different from us than we are different from Neanderthals or from chimpanzees. Because in the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. These will be the main products of the economy, of the 21st century economy. Not textiles and vehicles and weapons, but bodies and brains and minds. Now, how exactly will the future masters of the planet look like? This will be decided by the people who own the data. Those who control the data control the future not just of humanity, but the future of life itself. Because today, data is the most important asset in the world. Now, why is data so important? It's important because we've reached the point when we can hack not just computers, we can hack human beings and other organisms. There is a lot of talk these days about hacking computers and email accounts and bank accounts and mobile phones, but actually we are gaining the ability to hack human beings. Biological knowledge multiplied by computing power, multiplied by data, equals the ability to hack humans.
The human race is at a critical point.
Al final, de lo que se trata es de organizar una gran entidad o varias entidades supranacionales que sean las que dicten el nuevo orden de cosas, el nuevo orden mundial.
Have no doubt, you are living the most important moments of your life. Because you're going to be the protagonists of the most important moments in the history of humanity.